At least 59 civilians killed in Sudan in a fierce power struggle between the country's army and rival paramilitary forces. The United States, China, Russia, Egypt, Saudi Arabia and the UN Security Council, European Union as well as the African Union have appealed for quick end to the hostilities that threaten to worsen instability in an already volatile region. However, fighting continues in Sudan's capital Khartoum, which has left more than 600 injured. At least 4 people have been killed and 28 injured after a shooting erupted during a birthday party in the United States state of Alabama. The party was being held inside a dance studio in the small town of Nairobi, and among those dead included a high school football player who was among those attending his sister's 16th birthday celebration when a gunman opened fire. Officials have provided no information about what led to the shooting or whether any suspect had been killed or arrested. This marks the third mass shooting incident in the United States in 3 weeks. Japan is hosting G7 foreign ministers meeting today. The ministers will discuss various topics from regional to global issues. China is expected to be at the center of the discussions. The meeting, which includes ministers from the United States, Japan, Germany, Britain, France, Canada, Italy and a representative from the European Union, comes ahead of a leaders' summit that Prime Minister Fumio Kishida will host in Hiroshima next month. Meetings in Japan come amid security concerns after an explosive was thrown at the Prime Minister during a campaign event. Prime Minister Kishida has said that Japan will make utmost effort to provide security and safety for the meetings. Two-day climate talks of G7 nations concluded on Sunday in Japan. Sporo nations agreed to cooperate with the Global South and with each other to achieve their climate goals. According to Japan's Trade and Industry Minister, the minister said that the G7 countries had agreed to speed up development of renewable energy and reduce gas consumption. The members also agreed to accelerate the phase-out of unabated fossil fuels to achieve net zero in energy systems by 2050. Japanese rescuers have found the wreckage of a crashed military helicopter and recovered the bodies of 5 of the 10 people who had been on board. The aircraft disappeared from radar on the 6th of April while flying over sea near Miyako Island. A senior ground self-defense force commander was among those on flight. Rescuers found parts of the fuselage of the helicopter and confirmed 5 bodies were submerged at a depth of 106 meters below the ocean surface. And Russian President Vladimir Putin met Chinese Defense Minister Li Shangfu in Moscow on Sunday. President Putin hailed military cooperation between the two nations. Russian Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu was also present during the meeting. Beijing announced Li's visit to Moscow last week, saying he would meet defense officials, but made no mention of a meeting with Putin. Chinese President Xi Jinping met Putin in Moscow last month. Russia and China have moved to further strengthen their economic, political and military ties since Moscow's operations in Ukraine began in February 2022. Brazilian President Lula da Silva met with UAE President Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan in Abu Dhabi on Sunday. During the meeting, he again proposed joint mediation in resolving Russia's war in Ukraine and called for the formation of a political G20. He discussed the matter with Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping last week. Lula had previously said that the group should gather countries not encouraging war, adding that the nations that are still supplying weapons should be convinced to stop doing so. Russia's paramilitary force Wagner Group sent at least 100 Ukrainian prisoners of war back to Ukrainian forces to mark Orthodox Easter. The group's founder, Yevgeny Prigozhin, posted a video of the release on Sunday. The video shows a group of Ukrainian prisoners being told that they would be passed back to Ukrainian forces to mark Orthodox Easter. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky's chief of staff said 130 Ukrainian prisoners of war have been released and returned home in a Great Easter exchange. However, it was not clear how many Russians were sent back. Yemen's warring sides on Sunday wrapped up a major exchange of prisoners linked to the country's long-running conflict as part of a UN broker deal. The three-day operation, which started on Friday, was the most significant prisoner exchange in the nation since the Saudi-led coalition and their rivals, the Iranian-backed Houthi rebels, released more than 1,000 detainees in October 2020. The proxy war between Saudi and Iran in Yemen has killed more than 150,000 people, including fighters and civilians, and has created one of the world's worst humanitarian disasters. An Iranian court on Sunday reached a final verdict in its investigation of the 2020 downing of a Ukrainian jetliner by Iran's Revolutionary Guards, an incident that killed all 176 people aboard. The court found 10 people guilty, sentencing the main defendant to 10 years in prison, with others receiving prison terms of between 1 and 3 years. Iran's Revolutionary Guards shot down the Ukraine International Airlines flight on the 8th of January 2020, shortly after it took off from Tehran airport. Iran's civil aviation body said the operator mistook the jet for a missile at a time when tensions were high between Tehran and the United States. The 75th edition of the Hanover Messe, one of the world's largest trade fairs, was ceremoniously opened on Sunday. In Germany, Indonesian President Joko Widodo, whose country is this year's partner country of the industrial show, joined German Chancellor Olaf Scholz to pledge future economic cooperation. German Chancellor said that as Asia moved more and more center stage, Indonesia would grow in global importance as well. He said Germany wants to help countries that are rich in critical minerals such as Chile, Indonesia, Namibia, and to build their own processing infrastructure to cut dependency on China. Hundreds of supporters of Kenya's main opposition leader Raila Odinga waved and danced to popular songs at a rally that he held in Nairobi. Odinga has urged his followers to protest the high cost of living. The demonstrations also stem from accusations of fraud in August's presidential election, in which Kenya's President William Ruto narrowly beat Raila Odinga. Ruto's ruling coalition has said that the vote was fair, defended its economic record, and called for the protests to stop, saying that they cast doubt over opposition's sincerity in participating in the talks.
Wiki hii kesho jina yake nakwenda kwa ICC.
Hundreds of protesters and relatives of police officers who were killed in the line of duty marched through Chile's capital on Sunday. The rally in Santiago had been called by relatives of slain officers amid an increase in violent crime. Some held banners calling for the resignation of President Gabriel Boric, whose government has now come under pressure over the crime wave. Official figures indicate that crime in Chile, including homicides and robberies, grew by 44% last year compared to 2021. The crisis was exacerbated last week by the killing of a third police officer in less than a month. A wildfire burned 668 hectares in southwestern France and crossed to the Spanish border on Sunday. The fire led to the evacuation of some farmhouses and local residents in parts of Spain. Huge clouds of smoke were seen behind the mountain in the Spanish side of the border as trains and roads connecting both countries were shut. The fire crews have managed to prevent any injuries among inhabitants. Spain and southern France continue to see wildfires this past winter, with low rainfall maintaining parched conditions after last summer's severe drought. The capital city of Nepal, Kathmandu, was shrouded in thick smog that caused reduced visibility on Sunday. Buildings were seen engulfed by smog as the US Embassy Pollution Monitoring Station showed the AQI crossing the 190 mark. A report has declared Kathmandu as the most polluted among 101 cities in the world. Earlier this week, the Nepal government attributed the rising pollution in Kathmandu and the central and eastern parts of the country to forest fires and the burning of agricultural residues. A mosque in Indonesia's capital has encouraged an energy waqf during Ramadan. It's a type of donation in Islam that continues to bear fruit over time, and here it is to grow the mosque capacity to make renewable power. A major renovation in 2019 installed more than 500 solar panels on the mosque's expansive roof. The solar panels are now a major source of the mosque's electricity use. The mosque climate push is just one example of different green Ramadan initiatives in Indonesia and around the world that promote an array of changes during the Muslim holy month. Iraqi archaeological marvels that have survived millennia and the ravages of war now face a modern threat, being blasted and slowly buried by sandstorms linked to climate change. Iraq, one of the countries worst hit by climate change, endured a dozen major sandstorms last year that turned the sky orange, brought daily life to a halt and left its people gasping for air. Now the changing weather and its impact on the land, especially creeping desertification, spell an additional threat to ancient sites all across southern Iraq. An Indian man named Mohan Singh in a northern Chandigarh city promises to win the hearts of lovers of music and vintage with his gramophone and record player collection. The collector has at least 2,000 records to boast as part of his collection. Singh said that his nephew helped him rekindle his old passion for the art and inspired him to expand his collection, which started with 2 record players in 1975. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.